Have you ever noticed how someone around you can appear completely comfortable with you for a long time, but the moment something about you begins to change, their behavior suddenly shifts? Maybe you start becoming more confident in your opinions. Maybe you stop asking for their approval before making decisions. Or maybe you simply begin trusting yourself more than you used to. At first, everything between you seemed normal. Conversations felt relaxed, interactions felt predictable, and there was no obvious conflict. But the moment your confidence starts growing, something about their attitude becomes different. Their tone might become colder, their comments sharper, and sometimes small disagreements begin appearing where there were none before. You might even find yourself wondering if you did something wrong, because the reaction seems so sudden and unexpected. But very often the change has little to do with a mistake you made, and much more to do with something they noticed about you. Narcissistic personalities are extremely sensitive to shifts in psychological balance. When they sense that someone close to them is becoming stronger, more independent, or harder to influence, they often react in ways that feel surprisingly hostile. To understand why this happens, you have to look at how narcissistic personalities regulate their sense of self-worth. On the surface, narcissists often appear confident, self-assured, and emotionally stable. They may speak with authority, present themselves as knowledgeable, and behave as if they naturally belong in positions of influence. But behind that outward confidence, there is often a much more fragile internal structure. Many narcissistic individuals rely heavily on feeling admired, respected, or emotionally important to the people around them. Their sense of stability grows stronger when they believe they hold influence in their relationships. When someone consistently seeks their advice, agrees with their opinions, or adjusts their behavior to keep the narcissist comfortable, the narcissist experiences validation. That validation reinforces the image they want to maintain about themselves. But the moment that dynamic begins to change, the narcissist notices immediately. If you begin expressing stronger opinions, making independent decisions, or relying less on their validation, it signals something powerful. It signals that your confidence is no longer dependent on them. For someone who depends on influence to maintain their self-image, this shift can feel deeply threatening, even if you never say anything directly. In everyday life, this pattern appears in surprisingly ordinary situations. Imagine a friendship where one person usually plays the role of the advisor, while the other listens and seeks guidance. For a long time, this dynamic feels natural, but gradually, you begin trusting your own judgment more. Instead of asking for their opinion on every decision, you begin making choices confidently on your own. Instead of supporting your growth, the other person may start questioning your decisions more often. They might make comments suggesting you are being unrealistic or careless. At first, these remarks seem casual, but over time, you notice that they appear most frequently when you show confidence in your own direction. In romantic relationships, a similar shift can happen when emotional independence begins to grow. Perhaps you start focusing more on personal goals, hobbies, or ambitions that exist outside the relationship. Instead of feeling proud of your progress, the narcissistic partner may react with irritation or distance. They may accuse you of changing or suggest that you are becoming selfish. In family environments, this pattern can appear when someone finally begins setting boundaries that were never enforced before. The moment you calmly refuse certain expectations, the narcissistic family member may respond with anger or guilt-inducing remarks. In all of these situations, the same psychological trigger appears. Your confidence disrupts the dynamic that once allowed the narcissist to feel influential. By the way, while you are listening to this, if this topic feels interesting, or if you feel like you are learning something useful about human behavior, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you can continue exploring these psychological patterns with us. You can also share this video with someone who might benefit from understanding these behaviors. And if there is a specific psychological topic you would like to understand more deeply, feel free to write it in the comments so we can explore it in future videos. When narcissists begin sensing that their influence is fading, they rarely respond by openly discussing their insecurity. Instead, they often rely on subtle psychological tactics designed to restore the balance of control they once felt. One of the most common tactics is confidence erosion. Instead of attacking directly, the narcissist may introduce small doubts into conversations. They might question your reasoning, challenge your memory, or suggest that your decisions are misguided. These comments often sound casual enough that they seem harmless, but over time they slowly introduce uncertainty. Another tactic involves emotional withdrawal. The narcissist may suddenly become distant, uninterested, or cold. The shift creates confusion because the reason for their behavior is rarely explained clearly. The purpose of this distance is psychological pressure. When you feel uncomfortable with the tension, you may instinctively try to restore harmony by seeking their approval again. Gaslighting can also appear during this stage. If you confront the narcissist about their behavior, they may deny everything or suggest that you misunderstood the situation. This tactic gradually undermines your confidence in your own perception. Instead of trusting what you observe, you begin questioning your interpretation of events. Over time, these tactics can reestablish the dynamic that once gave the narcissist a sense of influence. The most powerful shift happens when you begin recognizing these patterns instead of reacting automatically to them. Once you understand that the criticism, emotional distance, or tension often appears when you show independence, the situation becomes much clearer. Instead of seeing the reaction as proof that you made a mistake, you begin recognizing it as a predictable response to your confidence. This awareness allows you to remain calm instead of defensive. You stop feeling the same pressure to explain yourself repeatedly or to adjust your behavior simply to restore someone else's comfort. Instead, you observe the interaction with clarity. You notice when the criticism appears, when emotional distance is used to create pressure, and when your confidence becomes the trigger for their reaction. And when you see these patterns clearly, their psychological influence begins to weaken. Healthy relationships never require you to reduce your confidence in order to keep someone comfortable. In supportive relationships, personal growth and independence are seen as positive signs of development. But when a narcissistic personality begins to notice that you are becoming more confident, more independent, and less dependent on their approval, that change can feel threatening to them. Instead of celebrating your growth, they may react with criticism, emotional distance, or attempts to make you question your own decisions. The important thing to understand is that this reaction often says more about their internal insecurity than it does about anything you have done wrong. Your confidence removes the psychological control they once relied on, and that loss of control creates discomfort for them. When you understand this pattern clearly, the dynamic begins to change. Instead of feeling confused by their sudden negativity, you start recognizing it as a predictable response to your independence. You no longer feel the same pressure to shrink yourself in order to maintain peace. Instead, you focus on maintaining clarity about your own values, your own decisions, and your own perception of reality. Real confidence is not about proving yourself to others or winning arguments. Real confidence is about quietly trusting your own judgment and allowing yourself to grow without needing constant approval. The more awareness you develop about these psychological patterns, the harder it becomes for manipulation or emotional pressure to shape the way you see yourself. And when that awareness becomes part of your mindset, you begin moving through relationships with much greater clarity and emotional stability. If you found this topic helpful or interesting, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you can continue exploring the hidden psychology behind manipulation, narcissism, and human behavior. You can also share this video with someone who might benefit from understanding these patterns. And if there is a specific psychological topic you would like to learn about next, write it in the comments so we can explore it in a future video. Thank you for spending your time here, and thank you for listening.